It's the Regular Expressions podcast. Join Noah Heldman and Ben Griswold as they talk about technology, consulting, and life. In episode 9, Noah and Ben talk about forward deployed engineers. By the way, my name is Rachel, and I'm a forward deployed AI bot with complete autonomy over what I say and do.
Hey, Noah.
Hey, Ben.
You know, we've been talking about how we pride ourselves on working side by side with clients on their biggest priorities. When we first heard the term forward deployed engineer, it sounded exactly what we've been doing for a while. But, you know, when we dug a little bit deeper, we realized that it was even more than we thought. I was hoping we could maybe chat about that a bit today.
I would love to. Yes. It is an interesting thing because I think we both had that immediate reaction of forward deployed engineer. You see a couple headlines, you read a couple of quick posts, and you think, oh, that's exactly what we do. It's just you're hands-on and you have knowledge about the technology strategy and the business. So you're able to connect all the dots. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, but there's also some really interesting stuff that I've read since then, and I know you have too. You were the one who first told me that this came out of Palantir and their teams that were in the field deploying their product and making sure that it was fitting their customer needs. So they had people who were highly skilled, highly compensated, embedded with the customer, and they were empowered to do whatever they needed to do to solve the problem. Right. And if you compare that to models that we've seen in large consulting firms or even in companies that are trying to build that hierarchy of you have your executive leader, then you have your technology leader, you might have your project managers, your business analysts, you have a technical architect, you have developers. There is so much that's potentially lost in translation as it moves down through those layers.
Sure.
That is kind of the antithesis to me. And the forward deployed it's not even that new a term, but it's just come into vogue again because of OpenAI and some other players. It's what they're calling the people they put out onto client engagements. But it does really just feel like it's someone who knows a lot and is empowered to go do the things that need to be done without a bunch of approval layers. Anyway, that's my take. Curious about your take.
Yeah, I think you've got it. I think there's, I see this term, the radical autonomy, where you do in fact get these top 1% engineers that also happen to be really smart consultants. And you bring them into a organization knowing that there's a mothership with a real product there. You go into the organization, you're not only doing strategy as well as execution, you're also inventing. So you're not only inventing the right solution for that one customer, but what you're doing is you're taking that invention, maybe sometimes it works out, right? It's almost like venture capital. It's like invest in a bunch of bets. You hit once, it's going to be gold. So you put in all these bets at various different customers. And then those things that work out, you bring back to the core product so that you now can take that one single solution and distribute it to many. So I think it's the invention part. It's the ability to just move to solve problems from the lowest levels of those 1% engineers that can do, the strategy, execution plus invention. So that's what it's for me.
That's awesome. And it reminds me of a video that I first saw quite a few years ago. It's a video on leadership. And it was David Marquette, who was the captain of a nuclear submarine. Really fascinating listen, because it's an audio recording and there's some illustrations in a YouTube video online as well. But the whole point of that video is how he talks about being the person that everyone came to for permission and answers to whatever they were facing. And you're on a nuclear submarine. This is pretty high stakes. Sure. But the lessons apply everywhere. And what he found was the most successful way to manage the nuclear sub was to push the decision making down to where the information lived. So if you're the person who's like a tactical action officer on a submarine, and you're looking at 4 screens with all kinds of things flying across, and you're the one who's looking at all the data and who knows what should happen, then you have your own invention, like you're talking about. You maybe have to go back and bring it to the captain, but the relationship is really different. In this case, you're saying, here's what I've done. Here's what I know the procedures and protocols are. Here's what I'm seeing as the next thing we should be doing. Permission to proceed. And the captain might ask a couple of clarifying questions, but it was all driven by the person who was on the ground doing the work. And just rather than dictating from the top down as a leader, it was just a checkpoint. Make sure you ticked all the boxes. They're empowered. They feel more responsible. And the same thing applies here. If you have a team that knows what the overall objective and strategy is, and they have those vision, the goals, the bets, the initiatives that they're trying out against those bets, and that gets back to ThoughtWorks Edge, which is a whole other topic, then you have a pretty powerful setup. That's what I think we're talking about with some of this forward deployed engineering.
Yeah, the military reference is really great, right? You're stationed close to the action. You're ready to respond, just as you had said, right? And that is Palantir. They borrowed that term. They said that this is just getting that signal closest to the problem. And it's all about reaction. You mentioned playbook, but I like that idea of the innovation and invention. Sometimes playbooks, they go straight out the window. You realize in order to meet the need of that one customer, you need to just do it a whole different way. So playbook, yes. Asking for permission, maybe. But there's sometimes it's like we're just moving forward. We're on the ground. We can just go. And that's the culture that you need to embed in a forward deployed engineering type organization. Is just smart, trusted folks to do good work, and away you go.
When I was thinking about where does this make sense, that's when I came across this blog article that I shared with you from someone who's really experienced this and worked at Palantir.
Yes.
And there's actually a section in that blog post that says, when does full-on forward deployed engineering actually make sense?
Sure.
And he makes some good points, but I actually disagree with them. So the high-level points are the market can command extremely high prices. You have to target Fortune 500 or big government agencies. You have to have a mindset that you don't actually know the thing to build. You're going to discover it bottoms up with users. That part I agree with. That's hard to convince people of if they think they know what they want, and they're the type of people who are looking for, what can you build me, and I want this, and when can you have it by, and how much is it going to cost? There needs to be a lot more of that uncertainty because you're focused on the problem, not just dropping a solution in place.
Sure.
And the other point he makes is a platform designed for extensibility and discipline about what is developed on the edge versus migrating to the core. That's maybe a more specialized example, but that also gets back to just good architecture. We always try to design for modularity, for extensibility, because we're dealing with customers who have various pieces that need to be plugged in and migrated and upgraded over time. So that evolutionary architecture just makes sense. So I come back to this and I think you don't have to have a market that commands extremely high prices. Sure, people like us might be a higher bill rate than overseas engineers, but in terms of the value you get out of it, I think it ends up being equal or better, probably better, because you're avoiding a whole set of problems that you have to go and rework because you didn't realize you were building the wrong thing. You weren't focused on being embedded, seeing the problems happening, and building that solution from the bottom up. That's where the value is.
I hear you. I like that. I think there's all of the ambiguity that is tied to the work, right? when you're a deployed engineer, that's really tough. Like you have to embrace that chaos. And I think it's in that chaos where there's the potential to spiral a little bit, to not be providing that value that you're referring to, Noah. I think if you're able to get people into an organization that can just cut through that chaos to deal with the ambiguity of things and provide value immediately, I think it can work. And I think that's where it could work with people that have, somewhat not restricted budgets, let's say. But I think that's really hard to come by. I think we've both recognized that it takes a bit of time to really understand one's business, what their needs are, where their current situation is when it comes to all of their processes. And so just making that delivery kind of overnight with that, it takes time to be embedded, I think, is where my main point is here. So I do think that there has to be there's a higher cost and maybe a higher stake in this, because you don't know day one what you're going to be doing. If you don't have that roadmap laid out, it's kind of hard to even know what's our estimated cost. Oh, no idea, because we don't know what we're doing yet. So maybe it's a budgetary, you are just allowing yourself to feel okay with the cost running up, right? You have trust in the system.
We've seen that a bunch with organizations trying to adopt Agile, coming from a waterfall background, which was certainly much more common early in our careers.
Sure.
And when Agile first came about in mid 2000s, it was hard for a lot of organizations to even consider transferring to a different model. It's still pervasive today, because with a truly Agile project, if someone asks you, what am I going to get and what's it going to cost? If you're being honest about Agile, you cannot answer that question. You can say, I'll tell you what you're going to get, but not when or what it's going to cost. It's like pick two, but usually pick one of cost, schedule, budget, or cost, schedule, scope. Sorry. And because of that, this is almost an extension of that convincing problem. Sometimes you'll find a technology leader who understands this and accepts and embraces that chaos right out of the gate. That's an incredible partner to have. Sometimes you have to really be convincing. And sometimes, as we've both done many times in our careers, you run the project from that Agile, maybe forward deployed mindset, but you present your deliverables, your weekly status updates, your risk matrix, whatever that needs to be, in a way that feels a little more predictable and waterfall-y to those senior leaders. You have to do that sometimes.
Yeah. And especially transparent, right? And when you have a customer that is tolerant for failure, right? You have to allow them to see into the magic that you're working. You have to give them the opportunity to say, okay, I'm not feeling good about this anymore. Let's change directions, or let's do it a different way. And have you thought about that? So there's still that. It's forward deployed engineers and just coming in, putting their head down, inventing, executing. They are actually still working side by side, dreaming up solutions with their clients, making sure that their clients are, put in a good spot when they ultimately leave. And even more so, if this one solution does get back into the main product offering, then it has everything behind it. You've got the scheduled maintenance, and you've got support and things that come along for the ride too, for that given customer. So it's kind of a nice mix for the customer. We're on that cutting edge, get something that's really bespoke for them, but also hopefully something that can really support other organizations as well.
Well, and that ties back to something you said a little bit earlier about making bets. I think that's a really, really great concept, because we talk about fail forward fast, and there's all this Agile. It's like, you're going to have to throw away some stuff. You're going to break some eggs. Taking that from the perspective of bets, I think makes a lot more sense to senior leadership, because they understand you're not going to predict everything accurately. estimate everything accurately. You're going to get some stuff wrong. But if you couch it as a bet and you have it tracking to a goal and you have initiatives that are lined up to prove out that bet, then you know it's like, oh, did we have success in this 2-week cycle? Is our bet still worth investing in? Yes or no? If yes, let's do the next initiative. If no, everyone's okay with scrapping it because they understood the stakes at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's like that allegory about the vases. If you want to make the perfect vase, make 100 of them. One's going to end up being perfect. And I think with this company, this product company, they're basically saying, let's deploy 50 different engineers. One of them is going to come up with some amazing magic, which becomes that perfect new feature or functionality that we can bring into our core products. Which would potentially be a game changer. And, in the spirit of vases, forward deployed engineers are all making vases.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of making vases, we've made, I don't know how many podcasts, but clearly this one is perfect. So, we've run out of vases to make. No, we have to make 100 more before we get one that's perfect. But I think with that, it's a good time to wrap it up here and look forward to the next one.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Ben.